Hello and welcome to Keep Hope Alive podcast. We have a wonderful guest today. I'm so excited to have Heather Gray here with us. I am just so amazed. She's truly talented and funny. She is a diagnostic nutritionist. She knows a lot about different chronic illnesses and complex illnesses. And on the side, the fun part, she's a comedian. With going out on her little comedian tours and everything and having a good time. I'm sure we're going to have a great visit today. So, welcome, Heather. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for
But
having me.
you're welcome. I do have one question before we get started. How many weddings have you been to in the last 15 years?
Not very many, like, I would say 3.
3. Okay. Well, my next question would be, say you're going to a wedding, you're going into the ceremony part. What is that thing you need to sign that the bride and groom know you're here?
Registry?
Yes, very good. Okay. So, I mean, I
What do
get
I
people,
win?
you win a new shiny penny.
Oh, copper, love it.
You were hoping for a car, right? A
I thought
Bugatti.
you were gonna pull an Oprah on me. You get a car, and you get a
Oh,
car.
that would be so nice. I would love for that one day. Maybe we can find a sponsor who will do that on one of the shows. If you're listening, you have won a
Today is
so
brought to you today by Lexus.
exactly right. Everybody gets a brand new Lexus. Well, one of our sponsors here is lifeonrecord.com. So instead of having the guest book, they put out a vintage rotary phone that your guests can pick up and leave the message. Congratulations on your big day. Or maybe it's a ring bearer or groomsman going, hey, it's about time. Not the ring bearer, but it's about time you put a big ring on her finger. So it's the gift of voice, I always say. And right next to the phone, they have a QR code that your guests can scan as well if they wanted to use their own phone before or after. So all these messages do get collected and you have your choice. You can have it burned on a 12-inch vinyl record or it can go on a keepsake speaker. Now you get the phone number, not the phone, but the phone number for 1 year and plans start at $99, which is a steal. But this can go for any event at all. So to visit them, go to www.lifeonrecord.com. All right. So my first question is, who is Heather Gray?
Uh, that's a good question. I'm still trying to figure that out myself. But I think what most people want to know is like, how did you get started in this line of work? I'm a functional diagnostic nutritionist. And,
Okay,
it's kind of
functional.
in the functional. Yeah. That's a huge key piece because there's a definite difference between functional medicine and kind of Western med. And I always have to start off with the disclaimer. I am not poo-pooing Western med. If you get caught in a car accident and you become the bionic woman, like there is nothing better than Western med to put you back together. But when it comes to chronic, complex illnesses, prevention, we all know that it falls drastically short of being helped, with the United States being one of the lowest in far as, health goes, and we're spending the most money on prescription drugs. Like there's a disconnect there. But my
Yes.
disconnect started when I was 4. I was basically born full of shit. Like
Oh,
how many people could relate to being constipated as a kid? My feet would fall asleep from sitting on the potty for so long. And that's what started me off with the let's put band-aids on symptoms, let's give her laxatives and stool softeners, but I haven't tried to figure out why this 4-year-old can't poop. Hindsight's 2020. That was the year my uncle committed suicide. That was also the year my grandmother died of breast cancer. I was being
oh,
raised
wow.
by alcoholic addicts, young alcoholic addicts. So needless to say that the early childhood trauma in my life was great. And it
Yeah.
triggered my celiac disease. And so I think that's kind of what started me on my path to, being more prone to autoimmune, mold toxicity, Lyme disease, 2 stents in the psych ward myself for suicide attempts, 100 pounds overweight, issues with addiction, like all the things, but definitely the one that I'm most outspoken about is usually Lyme and mold and mental health stuff, because it's just still not a lot of people are talking about it. Not a people realize, how much it affects people. It's why in some of the comedy I even bring up brain inflammation and, hey, let's stop calling people crazy. Instead, let's say your brain inflammation is showing, right? Because once you have that stigma of crazy slapped on you, it's really, really hard to get off, and it's really hard for people to take you seriously after, things like that have happened. So it's a subject I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, I would be too. And before we even got started, I told you about my best friend being exposed to mold, and that's hard. She's no longer with us, but she's probably here in spirit right next to me going, "Oh my gosh," just she would be yelling at you, "Tell the world what I went through." So that would be from
Absolutely.
charity.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sad that still, I mean, mold is even more confusing and not enough known about than Lyme disease. Like Lyme was the big mystery one years ago, but we're now starting to get more and more education and awareness around it. Mold is so much more insidious because, I mean, when they say the statistics are like 50% of buildings have been water damaged. And so if you have water damaged buildings, you have a higher risk of mold. If you've got crappy genetics like I do, that doesn't allow your body to detox mold, you could be out of mold from 10 years ago, but still having effects from it because you needed to, you have to do something special to detox it out of the body. You get mold from eating grains and drinking coffee. Coffee, peanuts, and grains are some of the biggest sources of mold in our food. People don't realize it. And so it's a pretty gnarly, especially with all the ADHD, the anxiety, the depression, the asthma, allergies, food sensitivities, like a lot of these things people don't realize, migraines, actually very well could be a mold toxicity issue and not, a Ritalin deficiency or a Prozac deficiency or you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I keep thinking back to me because my doctor, I thought I was having a stroke. And they were like, "No, you just got chronic migraines." I was like, "I think I would know the difference, but obviously I don't. They're my doctor." So they were like, "Here's a pill." So that's the famous line. "Here's a pill. Try this. Let's see what it does for you." And I remember I was at my neurologist. He was trying to put me on something else too. And I go, "Hey, tell me, what's the vitamin that acts like this?" And he's like, "Magnesium." I go, "Okay, that's all I need." I don't wanna try another pill. I'm tired of pills. Like, give me a vitamin.
Absolutely.
So, but definitely, I mean, I kinda like Lyme disease. I'm trying to remember all that entails in that. So, can you tell me a little bit about Lyme?
Lyme is the great mimicker. They also call it nature's dirty needle because a tick or another blood sucking insect will go from creature to creature to creature to creature, kind of developing this little cocktail of stuff. And so by the time it gets to you, then you get all the things, and it usually never comes by itself. So Lyme itself is a spiral shaped bacteria, and it's related to syphilis, and it can infiltrate any system, any organ, any tissue in the body and kind of start shutting things down slowly. It loves collagen, so it really likes to hang out in people's joints. That's why there's so much joint pain. It likes to cause a lot of inflammation. It can cross the blood-brain barrier. That's why there's a lot of mental illness around folks with Lyme. So some of the more common symptoms are, fatigue, night sweats, not being able to sleep, anxiety, depression, chronic widespread pain. Migrating pain is probably one of the biggest ones, though. You'll see a flag on the play because there's only like 6 diseases in the whole disease category that has migrating pain as one of the symptoms. So if you have a friend who talks one day, "Oh, that's my right shoulder," one day, and the next day it's my left elbow, and then it's my right knee, they're not crazy or a hypochondriac. It very well could be Lyme disease. So
Yeah.
most folks think that you get that bullseye rash. Sadly, only 30% of the population gets that bullseye rash. If you have that bullseye rash, you absolutely have Lyme disease. But just because you didn't get the bullseye rash doesn't mean that you're in the clear. So it usually also comes with co-infections, other viruses, other bacteria, mold and Lyme are usually hand in hand and often misdiagnosed because a lot of the symptoms kind of overlap each other. Um, But yeah, that's kind of Lyme in a nutshell. There's a lot of different species. There's one out there right now that comes from the Lone Star tick that causes something called alpha gal syndrome, where it actually gives you an allergic reaction to red meat. So people can no longer, yeah, eat red meat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, like, is there anything like people can just go get tested and make sure they don't have mold?
Um, Mold or Lyme.
Both.
So the testing for both can be a little on the funky side. Lyme has a tendency to like to shut your immune system down. So if you've had it for a while, a traditional test that your doctor will do most likely will come back negative, which is false. They'll want to do a Western blot. They'll do an ELISA, which there's massive flaws in both of those testing. I use a company called Vibrant Labs. DNA Connections, IGenics are really great companies to get tested for Lyme. Mold, same thing. Mold sometimes can be a little more difficult because it depends on it. There's not a real great test out there that can tell you, like, is it right now? Is it from food? Is it from your water building? Or is it, like in my case, was it from 10 years ago that you're still, circulating in your body and having issues with? So a lot of times I'll test a person's environment and test themselves to kind of
Yeah.
see what might be going on. But yeah, there's a lot of testing can be tricky, but there's definitely ways around it.
Yeah, because I know where my friend was staying, she didn't know there was mold under the couch in the living room. And that was a majority of time spent there. So when it got into her lungs, it's just eating away. She couldn't get rid of it.
Right.
Hospitals had a hard time trying to get rid of it. Then she's on oxygen. It's like, you know, I think if doctors, I hate to say this, they need to be more understanding what the patient is going through instead of being like, oh, well, I don't know this. This is not considered a emergency. You're not dying right now. Just follow up with your doctor. Did you know what doctors do now? Oh, go to the emergency room. You're finding this as an emergency. So, I mean, yes, they overlap each other and it's confusing. I'm sure there's people here going, I have those symptoms, but maybe I don't have Lyme or I don't have that, but I have all these other aches and pains that will come with autoimmune. And that's where I'm really going with this is the word autoimmune can mean so many different illnesses, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, the one thing everybody knows about me is we can't figure out what's wrong with you. You can go testing in this other state and they can try to figure it out. I'm just at the point, it is what it is. I'll just sit back and enjoy life. And if it gets really, really, really bad, then I'll go. But um, I don't know if you ever heard of this one thing called neuralgia paresthesia. Have
Mm.
you ever heard of that? I have no feeling in my left leg. I can walk. I'm not crying all the time, but I've been shocked like lightning 20, 30 times a day. It's gone down into my foot for diabetic neuropathy, but they put a stimulator in my back. I'm battery operated now. I mean, they want me to charge myself for like 2 hours. It was weird because for me, that I've turned myself off. And that sounds funny. I turned myself off. I don't use that because I think it was actually making whatever currents in my leg worse. So, but I'm just
Well,
gonna
we're electromagnetic beings. So, I mean, if you've got something in your body that's interfering with your electrical field, I mean, absolutely, it's gonna, I'm a
yeah,
big fan of getting to the root cause of things, right? And sadly, a lot of folks do. They'll be like, I've seen 10, 15, 20, 30 practitioners and nobody can give me any answers. And so then I tell them, well, what's your choice? Just to go, lay down, give up and take whatever comes at you. It could be that 31st practitioner that actually knows what the hell's going on. And then, yay, look at all the things that you've ruled out that that it's not, right? Like I
exactly.
mean, it took me 27, I was undiagnosed for over 27 years, and if I would have completely given up, I'd probably be dead right now instead of being a comedian, traveling around the world, making people laugh, educating, saving people's lives. but I didn't. I continued to fight and I continued to search and I continued to seek and okay. And then finally I found somebody within 5 minutes of meeting with her. She had a little twinkle in her eye and she goes, I know exactly what's wrong with you. And I was like, you're freaking crazy, lady. Like, there's no way in hell. And she's like, did you ever get bit by a tick? I said, yeah, when I was 13. Why? She goes, I'm pretty sure you have Lyme disease. And that was what started that journey. Now there were multiple layers to pull back since then. So then I, worked with the Lyme, I worked with the parasites, the heavy metals, the leaky gut, the and then
Yeah.
I hit a plateau. And my plateau was living in mold, right? And then I tested positive and Mach-Cons in my nose. So then I had to peel that stuff back. And then I started relapsing again. And then that was when I started doing the nervous system resetting because mold is insidious. We all kind of maybe have heard of the fight or flight syndrome, right? Our autonomic nervous system, we got rest and digest, parasympathetic, sympathetic, fight or flight. And mold is insidious for turning on those alarm bells in your nervous system. Fire, 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 fire. But the sad thing is even when you're out of the building, the alarm bells are still on. Nobody shut them off. So you're in fight or flight all the time. And you can't heal when you're always running from a tiger. So that was the last little piece that I had to work with was kind of getting my nervous system calmed down, mindfulness training, nervous system rewiring, that kind of stuff. And it really helped dial things into the point where I haven't had a relapse. I haven't had a Lyme flare, an autoimmune flare in over 3 years. If I get a cold, I just get the cold. When I got COVID, I got my ass kicked and I got COVID, but I got over it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything else along with it because of all the things that I've done and the way that I live my life now. It's to some people, it looks a little on the high maintenance side. I look a little bit like a bubble girl without the bubble. But again, I'm living freaking life to its fullest, in a way that I never thought I could. So I'm always telling
That's
people,
good.
don't give up, don't give up, continue to look. It's frustrating, but don't give up. There's somebody out there that's going to have the answers for you.
Yeah, and when you find those doctors, it's amazing that they actually want to help or they tell you something. Have you looked into this? But I've ran into doctors. I felt that they go, hold on, I'll be right back. And I picture him walking into another room. Hey, Alexa, what does she have? So it's different things like that.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh, my Alexa just went off. Hold on. Alexa, turn off. I'm sorry. That's so fun. I'm gonna turn her off too when I do a podcast. I'm having trouble finding out what's wrong with you. So
Well,
that's
and
funny.
part of it could be Alexa because a lot of that Bluetooth and Wi-Fi that we got going on, it's a little too much for our electoral. I said we're at the beginning,
Yes.
we're electrical beings. A lot of that stuff interferes. One of the biggest things that I tell people to do right off the bat is to shut their Wi-Fi off at night because
Yeah.
giving their body a break from the constant barrage of electrical signals, especially to those of us that have got chronic illness. I've seen it almost every single time. If you've got any kind of chronic anything going on, you typically have the genes that make you a little bit more susceptible to being sensitive to EMFs, being sensitive to chemical exposures like perfumes and Glade plug-in,
Yeah.
that kind of nastiness that nobody should be using because it's toxic. But yeah, so, lowering your pollution, whether it's chemical
Yeah.
or EMF, helps out greatly.
Yeah, definitely. I hear you. My biggest thing is I'll watch reels to fall asleep, but then I'll put it down. I've watched TV, and if that doesn't work, I put my AirPods in and listen to an Audible book. And for some reason, authors can put me to sleep. I don't get it. But I listen to the 5-hour stories and I'm like, probably talking in my sleep, like, hey, that's a good point. So, but yeah, also growing up with epilepsy, I know it's not good for me to see a lot of the computer screens or even flashing lights or stuff like, and it's important for me to actually get a full night of sleep because if I only get like 4 hours, that can trigger a seizure, and I don't like that. So I'm always like, "No, go to bed early, do this and that, be on top of your game." So but definitely. So, um, do you do maybe it's on your podcast or do you help people through Zoom meetings trying to help them figure out, if something's happening to them?
I typically have people first start with my course. I have an online course. It's really ridiculously, you know, affordable at $67. It's, multiple modules, one on sleep, one on, supplementation, stress reduction, toxins. I've even
Yeah.
got like a 8 video cooking series in there because so many people, they're like, I want them to eat real food. And they look at me like I have two heads because they've never been in the kitchen. So I teach them, here's how you start cooking healthy, real food. And here's why we're using cast iron instead of Teflon, right? Here's why we're using glass instead of plastic. So, because all those things matter, all those toxic burdens add up on our body burden, total body burden. And the name of the game is the more that we can lessen that stuff, the more that our body then can take over and go, oh, I know what the hell to do now. Like it's built to heal if we get out of its way and do so. But right now, this world is just not conducive for human health. And we're seeing it around us with diabetes rising, autism rising, obesity rising, autoimmune rising, mental health. And people are like, oh, you're just acting like Pollyanna, like everything's going to make you sick in the world and the sky's falling. Well, it kind of is, folks. Like, open
Yeah.
up your eyes and look around you. There's a lot of people out there suffering that don't need to be suffering.
Exactly.
Like your
Exactly.
friend, like
Yep.
like me for 27 years, like my kid. Like it's too damn obviously you can tell I'm passionate about it because it just
Yeah.
it pisses me off and it makes me sad and it makes me sick that there are so many people, like I said, and it's just pure ignorance.
Yeah.
When we're brought up and it says, this is a part of a balanced breakfast. Bullshit. That's diabetes in the making, So no, yeah. Ugh.
I'm sorry. I love my new job, but this has happened to every job. And, I love my coffee, drinking Coca-Cola and having a wine at night. That's just my pattern. I've been through bariatric surgeries and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. That's all I want to drink. Water, yeah. I love when the a waitress goes, "Do you need a water with your wine?" And I'm like, "For decoration?" Like, I'm not gonna touch it. I don't know why I have a fear that their glass of water is a dirty glass still, because it's either constantly going through the dishwasher or something, but I just won't. I don't know why. I have never figured that one out. But having those people go, "Oh, the Coke is what's gonna hurt you in life." And, like, I always wanna have a comeback. Yeah, like, if you smoke, that's gonna hurt you in life. If you do this and you're drinking vodka and tequila at night or Jack Daniels, that's gonna hurt you, but I'm not gonna sit around telling people, "This is what's gonna hurt you." And
Well,
if
I
people
will
on
because it will, because people stay ignorant and they are going to stay sick, right?
yeah,
This is
yeah.
how you educate folks.
It's funny because, this happened a year ago or maybe more than a year, 2 years just ago, my leg was having a lot of issues and, I just couldn't break away. There was a wife and husband at where I go to do karaoke, and we just started talking on the topic of chronic pain. I was like, "Yeah, I got it in my leg, da, 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 da." He goes, "It's gonna sound nasty." But there's a shot for that, not like a needle, but there is a shot you can have here. And I was like, okay, what is it? My friend would yell at me today, and people who see me take this shot, it does take it away temporarily. Maybe it's mind over matter. And they go, you get Fireball, you get Rumple and Jaeger and mix it together. It has a couple times, but I don't even do it all the time. But I was like, this was a different way of kinda caring, for somebody, giving advice and everything, but I don't recommend it. People smell it and are like, "Oh, no." But other than that, what other things in the autoimmune have you seen that have been very mimicky of other illnesses?
I mean, so many. That's why they get
I know there's so
misdiagnosed.
many.
Yeah, that's why they get misdiagnosed so often, or they get put in like a catch-all category of fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue,
Yes.
Um, and for like the chronic pain people, read Dr. Peter Osborne's book, No Pain, No Grain. No Grain, No Pain. there's things that you can do to lessen what you have. Like, you don't have to continue to suffer at the extent that you do, where you're doing these outrageous things. A lot of times it's lifestyle. And it's, like I said,
Yeah.
this life is not conducive to human health. We've been fed a lot of lies and a lot of BS from a lot of big corporations that make money off of sick people. So if you want to take your power back, the truth is there. You just got to dig
Yeah.
just a little bit under the surface. But a lot of people don't want to change their lifestyle. They like their Coke, and they like their glass of wine, and they like their bread and whatever. And it's like, okay, fine, then put up with the pain and get used to being in pain, because unfortunately it won't get better on its own. Usually it gets
Yeah.
worse. And so I had this guy the other day. He's like, well, I'm going to meet he's probably 275 pounds overweight. And he's like, I'll just meet my maker fat and happy. And I'm like, that's great. And hopefully your diabetes doesn't get worse by then, or, you can still get your penis up, or, your brain's not too inflamed. Like, people think that these things are normal, but they're not normal. They're
Yeah.
common, but they're not
Yeah.
normal. Right. And that you don't have to live life that way.
Exactly, exactly. And I mean, yeah, going back to the coffee, there's some things people don't change. I interviewed a couple people have said this. When you have tragedy in your life, and if you can take it out and just dissect it a little bit, it helps relieve pain also. And I was like, huh. So I've been trying that lately. What are the things that are traumatizing to me? So that has been this year and last year's focus to see if it could help.
Oh,
But keto.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. If you're actually getting to the root cause of things and figuring it out, and typically it helps to work with somebody who's experienced in this sort of things, but
Yes. Yes.
absolutely, that is, they start off with The Body Keeps Score. It's in the name, The Body Keeps Score. All these
Yeah.
traumas, all these things, especially as women who weren't allowed to feel or express emotions because it seemed weak, or it wasn't allowed in the workplace, it wasn't professional, and all these things that
Yeah.
we stuff down, stuff down, stuff
Mhm.
down. It comes out sideways as an autoimmune disease, as a chronic illness, as cancer, so absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, people will be going through these illnesses. Don't listen to the other people. Oh, you have something every year. It feels like I hate that line from people. It's just like, no, I'm not asking for illnesses to come. Like, do we have a real person? My friend who passed, we were sounding boards, venting. We wanted to be heard from our doctors and stuff. And I think, when you go to a doctor and said, this is how I'm feeling, it hurts, da 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 da. I had one doctor tell me I was crazy in the head. It is all in my head.
Mhm.
Uh-uh. I had somebody do a back procedure on me, and it was a decompression, and when I went to my family doctor, "Something's not right," she told me I was crazy. So I went to a CBD store, seeing if there was any kind of magic relief, trying to learn what CBD was, and the guy who owned it said, "I want you to go to this chiropractor." I did. It was a simple freaking X-ray on my back she did, and she circled, "Get to a back surgeon right away." She found that the piece had slid out of my bone and they were rubbing together. So, to the doctor who calls me crazy in the head, it was another surgery. But don't be too quick to jump on people when they have a real concern, you know? So, I know with all this medical stuff that you do and stuff, tell me about your podcast. I'm really interested in that. What topics do you cover on a little bit of everything, I bet?
Yeah, because that's what it takes to get better, really. When it comes to healing, like I said, there's a lot of folks, even functional practitioners, are guilty of really focusing on the physical and not looking at the mental, emotional, the trauma piece. And you have to. And then you got the
Yeah.
trauma folks that's all they're looking at. They're not looking at the physical piece or the diet or the lifestyle, right? It's the whole picture. So it's everything. And I'm going to actually start getting more comedians on, more, lifestyle people on, more everything, because it's just information that's on the fringe that should be right up there in front. Like, it was a podcast that helped save my life. I heard the founder of FDN, which is my certification. His name's Reed Davis. He was on a podcast with a guy named Sean Croxton. It's called Underground Wellness. And he was talking about how you have to heal the gut and balance the hormones and make sure your detox pathways are open. And I was a hairstylist at the time for 15 years. I didn't have a background in medicine, but for some reason that it made sense to me. I was like, this is the answer. And that's what started me on my path into this world. And then within 3 months later, my life was completely changed as far as, the
Wow.
pain that I felt, how bad my periods were. I lost like 45 pounds. I was no longer about thinking of killing myself 50 times a day. Like, it was a profound change. And so, I've been doing that ever since and so that's why I've had some of the biggest names in the alternative health space talking about, we're talking about urine therapy, we're talking about methylene blue, we're talking about, early childhood trauma, with everything, EMFs. If it has to do with human health and having a person be whole and joyful in their life, then I've had spiritual leaders on, I've had authors on, all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had how many hospitals and doctors when they draw my blood, my HCG level is really high. They're like, "Congratulations, you're pregnant. Congratulations, you're having a baby." And I'm like, "My ovaries are out and I had a full hysterectomy." "What are you talking about? Mary?" I go, "I am not Mary." But it hasn't changed. So I've been pregnant for like 2 years, obviously. So, but it's weird. I had one doctor, he goes, "Well, your blood work is like a cow, chicken, and horse." And I was like, "Are all these your awards for being a doctor on your wall?" And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "You compared me to a farm animal." He goes, "Do you just want me to check you out?" I go, "No."
No, if I had a dime for all the horrific stories of the shit, the demeaning,
Yes.
dismissive crap that doctors have said to Lyme, mold, autoimmune, chronic illness. I could retire. It's just disgusting. And it is still happening all the time.
Girl, you need to have your own practice and everybody needs to come to you.
I do not care to go back to school to become a doctor because I do not want to be brainwashed in that bullshit way.
Yeah.
And and it's really, really heavy working with folks. I still work with folks one-on-one. I
Yeah.
take a very few and select few because I just don't have the time. That's why I have people start with the course, and then if they go through the course and then they still need help, then I'll put them through a really battery of intake forms. Like, they're over 600 questions, but it's some of the most comprehensive intake forms I've ever seen, and it saves people thousands of dollars on lab tests. I've seen so much clinical correlation to these intake forms compared to the lab tests that I don't run a whole lot of labs anymore. But and then the great thing is that I can have them redo the intake forms every 2 to 3 months to make sure that we're moving the
Mhm.
needle in the right direction. Because that's the other thing that pisses me off is a doctor will put somebody on some course of treatment and have them on it for like a year without ever checking, hey, is this working or is it not? Do we need to look in a different place, or do we need to switch gears? And it's people, you really should start feeling better within a couple of months. Not
Yeah.
100%. You've been sick for years. It's going to take a while. It's a marathon, not a sprint, but you should start seeing glimmers of hope in there. And it just makes me sick that yeah, I've been on these, oral antibiotics for the last year and a half and I still feel like shit. And I'm like, and your doctor didn't think to switch it up or do anything different? Nope, this
Yeah,
is
they
what
don't.
we've done. I'm like, nope. After 3 months, I would have had you redo my intake forms. And if things didn't get better, I'd be like, huh, we need to dig deeper. Have you ever had wisdom teeth pulled, or do you have root canals? Oh, well, you might have cavitations, which is a low level of infection that lives in people's jaws, which causes a lot of brain inflammation and cognitive issues. Or, oh, you're living in mold, and okay, well, we need to get you out of mold because we're not going to get the Lyme over until you're out of mold. So sleep apnea, shit, you're not getting enough oxygen at night. All the best supplements in the world, all the best diet in the world's not going to do a hill of beans of good if you're not getting enough oxygen when you sleep. So there's a lot of different rocks to look under, right? Nope, not
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Nope, not that. You know.
Yep. Oh my. I love how you put it. So, but you mentioned the word cognitive. I'm gonna start with a really quick commercial on another sponsor of Keep Hope, and that would be Snap Bands. So, Snap Bands, mine is a black one. It says hope is the mantra word. And on the other side, oh, I wish I could show it. Is a little, where am I? Oh, okay. I totally disappeared, but it has an elastic on it and you just gently pull it and it goes against there and you use your mantra words. So if they have mantra words like faith, hope, love, peace, no matter what mantra word, you can say, "Hey, I'm hoping for a great day today and I hope that I can make an A on this test." Now, what that band does is redirect the way you think things. It does help with anxiety and depression. And I'm going to throw PTSD in there for me because I have medical PTSD. But just to use it, it really helps the cognitive part of it redirect the thought. Um, so snap bands, they come in all different colors. They have all different mantras. I'm going to be giving you guys the website to take a look at that as well. And a portion from what you buy for snap bands will go to different organizations that actually help with depression and anxiety and stuff. So contributing, this is a great cause. They're made out of vegan leather. I love it. I take my shower, I do the dishes in it, go swimming. They hold up very, very well. They they have the mantra word faith, I told you, but you can only get faith with KHA code. So remember, keep hope alive and to get the word faith. So, but other than that, you can visit them at www.snapbands.com and it's SNAPPBANDZ.com. All right. So let's get back. I got to hear about the comedy part. And I think a lot of people want to know about your shows also. So you have a big career here and you're an author. I want to hear about that too. So,
That was bullshit. That was a
oh,
scam. I'm bitter about it. No, this woman, she was in a practitioner group. I thought she was legit. She charged like $5,000 to be a co-author in this book. So it's not even a book that I published. I've got one little piece in it, and it was on autoimmune, and there was recipes in it, and a lot of them had grains and other bullshit in it. And I thought my head was going to explode because I was like, you said this was for helping people with autoimmune, and it's a very, very common knowledge that there are grains are part of the cause of these autoimmune diseases. You got to get these recipes out of there. So it was a kind of a bitter taste in my mouth. I actually ended up having to file bankruptcy last year, and that ended up going
oh,
into bankruptcy. So I don't talk much about the book because,
okay. Forget the
yeah,
book. Forget.
forget the book.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the comedy,
She's not an
that's
author.
I'm not, no, I don't take that away, but we just want to talk about the book. But yeah, I do need to get my story out though. But the comedy kind of has really taken over. I had a show last
Yay.
night. I have a show tonight. I have a show tomorrow night, all in 3 different cities. It's nuts. Like my story is not a typical stand-up story, but so there's a doctor friend of mine who's has Asperger's and he does stand-up. And we met in person for the first time and we had coffee, and he knew I wanted to speak more, to get on more stages and educate. And within 5 minutes of meeting him, he's like, have you ever thought about doing stand-up? And I was like, why on earth would I do that? And he goes, because I think you'd be really good at it. He's like, do you have any trauma in your life? I said, how much time do you have for lunch? He goes, it will really help you get more speaking gigs. He's like, I'm telling you. And he's like, it'll help just strengthen that muscle up while you're on stage anyway. And I was like, okay. So I take this class that he was in, and like halfway through the class, I was like, this is too much. It's really vulnerable. I'm a practitioner, right? I'm a professional, and I'm talking about
Uh-huh.
stuff I shouldn't, I'm revealing things about myself that not very many people knew. But I'm in the thing that, if whatever I've gone through can help one person, then it's worth making myself look like an ass doing it, right? Judge me, don't like me, I don't care. If one person gets something from my story and goes, this helped save my life, then it's freaking worth it,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
So we did our comedy showcase for our class, and then like that was it. A month later, I had my first paid gig in front of 200 women, which like that never happens. I killed it. And then I've had several gigs since then, and I have one
Yay.
group of people who want me to write stuff for what it's like to be an entrepreneur, especially a woman in business. And I have another group that wants me to write some material for addiction, because I've been sober now for a little while and definitely have a lot to say about that. So it's been a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, and I'm still just shocked at how little comedians get paid. Like the gig I did last night, $25.
That's
$25.
it.
$25. And I had to drive 45 minutes there and back and then be there for an hour and a half. So I'm like, that's like below minimum. I mean, it's, you really have to love it. And I'm hoping that it gets better at some point. But
Well,
yeah,
you have a tip jar out there.
I think they did. And I don't, there was like 6 people in the crowd. Yeah, it was, last night was kind of brutal. But yeah, I had no idea. But some shows pay a lot better than other ones. And like I said, hopefully at some point I'll get picked up by something bigger and,
Oh, you will.
yeah.
You will. Yeah. So hit us with your best shot. Can you give us a line?
So that's the one thing about stand-up. People, it's rehearsed, right? It's a bit that's rehearsed.
Yeah.
Improv people can do things like off the cuff like that. So it cracks me up when I tell people I do stand up. I get 1 or 2 responses. Say something funny, and I look at them and go, "It doesn't work that way."
Yeah.
Or they tell me they're damn bad dad jokes, and I have to sit there and laugh at them politely,
Oh
because
no.
yeah, they just think they're freaking hilarious, and they're wanting to tell, show you how funny they are, and you just have to go, uh-huh, yeah, that's pretty funny. So yeah, but like, so the brain inflammation one, that's one part of my bit is, I want to stop calling people crazy, instead I want to
Yeah.
say your brain inflammation is showing,
Yeah.
that there's that line from the 90s song Insane in the Membrane. I want to change the
Yeah.
lyric to inflamed in the brain. That
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
the struggle is real, right? That there's a lot of people out there. Be nice to one another, and then I talk about dating, asking your doctor if dating a younger man is right for you. But that only makes sense if you heard the beginning of it, but we don't have time.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's kind of hard to pull out the bit because it's kind of a
Yes, I gotcha.
yeah.
I gotcha. So yeah, with relationships, it's always fun. I've gone into a new venture with Dr. Linda Namey. She is now officially a part of Keep Hope Alive, but we are doing a platform of dating, trying it a different way. Instead of swiping right, swiping left, get to know somebody, get to know yourself first, actually, and then go meet them. Let them learn about them. You got to write to the love doctor. I call her the love doctor and see if you can go on a date with this person. So, but I love hearing like when comedians are talking about health and relationships. I'll be there in a heartbeat. Beat. I can't even talk heartbeat. So, but anyways, definitely. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on this show. Now tell me, if people want to look up or contact you, where did they go?
Everywhere. It's the Renegade Health Boss, Renegade. Because I didn't realize Renegade's kind of a weird word to spell. And like right off the bat, I was at a comedy show, and at the end they were like, I don't know how to spell that. I was like, oh shit. But so I'm the Renegade Health Boss everywhere. And you could start with my website. You can find there's a comedy page that will tell you where my next show is going to be at, what city where I'm going to be at. There's another page for my podcast. There's a page for the course that I was telling you about. And then there's the free, I have a free cooking series that you can sign up for and, get started that way.
Good, 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 good. I love tuna fish. Please tell me tuna fish is okay.
Absolutely not. Tuna fish is horrific.
Really?
It's one of the highest fish in the form of mercury. If we were to test
Oh,
your mercury levels. Yeah.
okay, okay. Maybe I'll just I gotta
Mercury
tackle
really
you.
affects the brain and cognitive stuff as well. So yeah, yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
explains me then.
I'm like, she eats too much tuna fish. Yeah,
Yes,
no,
I love
sadly.
tetrazzini. So, oh
Yeah,
my gosh, I just had to.
Yeah, there's a hair test that you can do. It's a hair tissue mineral analysis and actually see what kind of heavy metals you've got in your system. It's quite fascinating.
Like Metallica. I'm
Like
kidding.
Metallica or
Gotcha.
anthrax. Yeah.
Yeah, I got you on that too. But that is awesome. Now, if you guys have any questions, you can always call in. And the new thing I'm going to start doing with my podcast, I'm excited, is I'm going to start live streaming it pretty soon. So I'm excited to try that out. If you have questions for us, you can call 833-780-HOPE, which is 4673, I believe, at the end. And we will take all questions about this show. If you have anything more directed that you want to reach out to her shorter term, you can leave a message at www.keephopealivepodcast.com and we can pick that up as well. Now, I have a bunch of other sponsors I have to bring up really quick. As we talked about, we had lifeonrecord.com was your interactive guest book for any event to leave a voicemail message basically for them that can be burnt on a 12-inch vinyl record or it can go on to a keepsake boombox. I got to get my mommy glasses on. I don't know why. When I go through my sponsors, I feel like I need my glasses. So our next one was snapbands.com, your bracelet with the mantra word that helps beat anxiety, depression, and PTSD. You can find them at www, and I'm going to spell it out, SNAPP bands, BANDZ.com. Our next one is Ogden Ventures LLC. Marcus Ogden is a former football player, podcast speaker. He has his own show and books out there too. You could visit him at www.marcusogden.com. Our next one is bridalshowsincorporated.com. And Naomi has been running these beautiful wedding events for many, many years. So you can come meet your photographers, caterers, reception area, fashion, and set up an appointment. Maybe book your vendor right there also. So she has all her shows listed on there. Our next one is Bryce Harney at brycemagic.com. Of course, he's a magician. I want you guys to go on YouTube and type his name in because he is fun to watch. He's a mind mentalist too. He's been on TV and doing all these fun shows for people. Our next one is Miles and Smiles Events.com. Deborah Rose, she's a handwriting analysis and lipstick reader, and she is 100% accurate. Everybody knows I'm hard to get through, but she won me over. I love watching her in action because everybody's like, how'd you know that? Like, it's just amazing. Our last one is richmondpunch.net. He graduated from the Juilliard's top honors. He's a violinist for over 30 years. He is out on tour right now. He's performed in front of 1 million people and had 2 slots on Lifetime shows. So if you need somebody really good for your next event, find them at richmondpunch.net. Other than that, I want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. I've learned a lot from you. So thank you explaining the Lyme disease and versus the mold and what's good to eat. And I can still drink milk, right?
Oh my God, no.
Why do you keep saying no? I'm naming all the good stuff.
No, that's not good stuff. If there's a commercial about it, if there's a commercial about the food, don't eat it because that's
Oh,
government-based stuff. So milk, unless it's raw, right? So here's a funny story. Dairy cows back in the day when we industrialized and we came into cities, we brought cows with us, right? Cows used to eat
mhm.
grass and we never used to have to make things. Well, we started feeding them spent grains from alcohol baking, which made them sick because cows actually aren't made to eat grains. Their 4 stomachs are made to break down grass, not grains. So now we've made them sick. So we had sick milk going out, making people sick. And instead of treating the root of, hey, let's feed cows what they're supposed to eat, we started pasteurizing and homogenizing the milk, when you heat it up that high, it kills all the beneficial bacteria that is made for us to break it down. So now we're eating drinking a bunch of dead bacteria, which is causing inflammation. Milk is one of the highest producers of mucose. There's also so many parts of pus per million that is allowed in milk. Not to mention just how horrific the dairy industry actually treats those animals. So it's multi-layered. If you're going to drink milk, do it raw. Find a good raw source. Raw milk is
Okay.
actually one of the most nutrient dense foods out there. It's absolutely brilliant. But unfortunately, if you've got an autoimmune disease, it mimics and it looks a lot like wheat. And if you've got like Hashimoto's, especially, the thyroid tissue looks a lot like wheat. So now when you eat wheat, your body thinks that it's got this invader and it starts to attack your thyroid because your thyroid looks like wheat tissue. And then dairy cross reacts like wheat. So
Gotcha.
typically when I have people with autoimmune, that's dairy-free, gluten-free, right off the bat.
I gotcha. Okay. So stick to water.
No, that's
Oh,
why, no, water's great. Absolutely stick to water, but you can do other things as well. It doesn't have to be that boring. That's why
okay.
that's why I made the cooking series. It's because people, they feel there's so much emotional stuff tied to food. And a lot of
Yeah.
people really struggle with changing that part of their lifestyle. And people look at me and when I tell them I'm dairy-free, grain-free, corn-free, and they go, "Oh my God, what do you eat?" And I'm like, "Let me show you. Like, I eat amazing. I had the most badass chicken tacos for lunch
Oh,
today. They
yeah.
were amazing. I eat so good." And but it's just swapping different things out for different things and educating on why, right? Instead of just saying
Hmm.
like, understanding that you're drinking pus and that they treat the animals horrible and cows really aren't meant to eat grain and that's what makes them sick and then we have to give them antibiotics and it's a huge
That's
there's a
a
lot.
long process.
It
Yeah.
is. It is. So yeah, no, but no, whole real raw milk, amazing. Butter, from raw grass-fed cows, amazing. Stuff that you get at the regular grocery store, toxic inflammatory foods.
Okay. And no commercial foods.
Yeah, processed stuff, no, you really want
Yeah.
to whole real food as much as possible.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. The longer
Okay.
the shelf life on something, the shorter it makes your life, So the longer the shelf life, shorter your life.
Okay. Okay. I am going to listen and I'm going to look at that long $600, $600, 600 question to see. And then I want to learn what I need to get to eat. I
Start
want to
off
be
with that
healthy.
$67 course that I have on my website. Like
Okay.
that is the best place to start.
Okay.
Like most digestible. And then you have access to those videos at all times because then you can be like, "Oh, what did she say about that again?" You can go back and rewatch it. And then as things change, because I'm always learning new things. And as I learn something new, something that I had beliefs about sometimes changes, and I
Yeah.
go in and I update and I update and I update. I'm not so, "Oh, okay. Well, shit. I've been saying this wrong for the past couple of years. Oops. Let's fix that."
Change it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Because nobody's
Definitely.
got all the answers. If they did, they would be making cajillions of dollars and people still wouldn't be so sick. We wouldn't have carnivore versus vegan versus
Yeah.
paleo versus all these things if one thing worked for everybody. So yeah,
Yeah.
but there are some like universal truths with dairy being really inflammatory, wheat being really inflammatory, sadly tuna being full of mercury, but there are ways
Uh,
to get
I
better
still want my
options.
tetrazzini.
Well, and it might be that just the type that you get, could be a different, whole caught, organic, something. They have
Gotcha.
stuff too that I've seen tested low for mercury, so there's things that you can look for
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna be more eyes wide open when I go to the
There you
grocery store
go.
now.
There
So,
you go.
yeah,
I even have a
definitely.
grocery store tour video in that
I
course.
was gonna like, can you put this on an app and this is what you buy at the grocery store by
Oh yeah, I'm not that technically sap, but if anybody's listening that can help me build something like that, I would be more than happy to. But yeah, so
Yeah, that
there's
would
a
be fun.
video where I take you around the store and show you, stay away from this aisle, or if you get this, here's an alternative, and instead
Yeah.
of, you know,
You
because
know, it'd be
people are
really
just
cool.
lost and confused.
do that video, and as you're passing by, people throw comedy in there.
Yeah, I have been not picking, but like playing with people a lot more these days. That's the one fun thing about comedy is that it's just made me more fun in general, and
Yeah,
I'm bringing more joy to people around me. It, everything's
that's
just
awesome.
serious.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be serious in life. So I know you have a show coming up tonight and
I
all your
do.
shows coming out no free, no more $25. You do it for 150.
Amen.
Give them an hour of comedy.
Right?
Yeah. So, well, it was so nice meeting you. And until our next show, guys, remember it's www.keephopealivepodcast.com. Love and light. Mm.